you want to pull.
Okay, cool. And then
But
no, I don't really have any other
okay.
questions. Are your audience, is it mostly DPT students or someone else?
Yep. So it's mostly students. I originally started the page kind of focused on putting out orthopedic content
Mm-hmm.
and exercises. And then I realized that there are thousands of pages like that out there. So I was trying to figure out kind of a unique value proposition. That's where I think if I can get more in the mentorship space. And
Yeah.
so 2022, I'm going to be mostly focused on the podcast. And then I'm going to try and get a little bit of a newsletter going to build some
Yeah.
traction there.
Awesome.
But
That's really cool.
I can do. Oh, I can do. I'm going to do a little intro,
Okay.
and then we can get started from there. But most of the questions I'm going to have, I'm kind of going to have you wearing a couple different hats today, which you do on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
that shouldn't be a problem. But just talking in terms of your perspective from a CashPT owner, a PT entrepreneur and consultant. And then I wanted to touch a little bit on corporate wellness too, because that's not something any of my guests have really spoken
Mm-hmm.
on before. Does that
Okay.
sound okay?
Yeah, that
All
sounds
right.
great.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Snack Break by OrthoSnacks. I'm your host, John Schaefer, and on this podcast, I interview physical therapists, fitness professionals, and health and wellness experts. My guest today, I don't know if I dreamed this up or if I saw it online, but he has been referred to as the godfather of CashPT. He is the host of the CashPT Lunch Hour, the author of the CashPT Blueprint, which I recently finished, obtained a lot of value from. And he is the owner of Lebauer Physical Therapy and Lebauer Consulting, where he's helped thousands of healthcare entrepreneurs treat the way they want, as well as obtain a little bit more freedom. And this man is on a mission, a journey to save 100 million people from having surgery. That's a lofty task, but if there's anyone up for the job, I think it is this man. He is Dr. Aaron Lebauer. Welcome.
Hey, John, thanks so much for the warm welcome and great introduction. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you carving out a little bit of time to chat with me today. I know the holiday season can get busy. And like I said, I just finished your book, and I think that the listeners are going to obtain a tremendous amount of value from this conversation as we kind of sort through the book a little bit, as well as your journey. So looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Just so everyone can really get on the same page before we go any further into the conversation, I'd like you to talk a little bit, for those who don't know, what is CashPT and what makes it so unique compared to the insurance-based model?
Yeah, I think the basic way I think about cash-based physical therapy is that in, I make a direct contract with my patients.
Mm-hmm.
So my patients or our patients are the ones that pay us, and we agree to the terms of their program, and then they pay us directly. And if they'd like to file a claim for reimbursement, they can do so on their own, which is different than in-network physical therapy, where as the business owner, I would sign a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield to accept a specific amount of reimbursement per treatment, and then the patients come and see us, but there's a third person in the way. It's a triangular relationship, which in personal relationships don't go well, and I don't believe in business relationships they go well either. And so then there's like this middle ground of being out of network. So out of network physical therapy, the difference between that and cash-based PT is we're basically out of network. We just don't file the claim on behalf of our patients, whereas an out-of-network clinic typically still files the claim on behalf of their patients, which takes a little bit of the friction away.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the patient's responsibility. It makes it a whole lot easier on us because it's really hard to file a claim for someone else. I mean, people do it all the time, but when I start, I mean, it goes back to kind of how I started. Was I knew it was just going to be me, and I was like, I'm not going to spend all day on the phone with insurance companies. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the basic. In network, out of network, you file a claim on behalf of someone else. Cash based, we're out of network. We just don't file claims for our patients.
Okay. So what percentage of your patients do you think actually go back to file the claim themselves?
That's a good question. It's not a metric we typically track. I think it depends on what year it is. I think these
Okay.
days, probably 50% of people go and file claims.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them probably intend to do it, and then they realize that insurance isn't going to pay for their first $5,000 of services anyways, so they probably don't. And then there's a good portion of people that do, and they have great insurance, and they get reimbursed.
Okay. So a lot of it sounds like it just has to do with healthcare trends overall.
Yeah, yeah. And by the time
Okay.
people get to us, they're like, I don't really care. I just need to be helped. because they've been
Yeah.
somewhere else and not been helped because they didn't have enough time, or they weren't listened to,
Mhm.
or they waited a long time, or they couldn't get in. Sometimes people come to see us because they're like, well, you guys can get us in. I'm like, I know. You can.
Awesome. And I mean, in your book and online, you kind of talk about the turning point, which you were introduced to, the idea that there's a way to do things differently.
Right.
And that was the day you treated 43 patients. Um, so I guess my question would be, what do you kind of say to a student who's on a clinical and they're in a situation where they're seeing a high volume of patients, or even someone who's in the middle of their job who is at a high volume clinic treating more patients than they'd like? Is it a situation where you just kind of have to grin and bear it and try and learn as much as you can in the moment? Or, I mean, how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I think when I looked at it, when I was a student, I saw 43 patients that one day, and it wasn't like, uh, it wasn't like I was seeing 10 patients and then all of a sudden one day it was like I was seeing 30 patients a day, generally probably
Okay.
25 to 30. But this one day I was there super late and I was like, I had to count up all the notes that I wrote.
Uh-huh.
And that whole clinical rotation, I worked like a dog, but I knew that I had it easy compared to my dad, who was a cardiologist, and his uncles. Like
Okay.
they, they wouldn't sleep for days in a row. They were on call. Like I wasn't on call overnight. My dad
Hmm.
was like, I fell asleep signing my name multiple times. Like I didn't like. So for me, my expectation was I'm going to work really hard. At the same time, I knew that seeing 4 patients an hour, after already having been a massage therapist for 6 years, wasn't going
Hmm.
to cut it with the patients that were coming to see me in my massage therapy business, because they were coming to see me because physical therapy had, in quotes, failed, or they'd been to see a PT, the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, the orthopedic surgeon, and no one had touched their problem before, or their pain area. Like no one had been able to help them until they saw Aaron. Well, they saw me, and I got to spend an hour with them for, you know, like once a week for 3 to 8 weeks or whatever. Like I did as a massage therapist, I wasn't prescribing 3 to 8 weeks. So it's just they would come see me and we'd
Hmm.
rebook them for the next week, and they're like, "Wow, all of a sudden I feel better." No one's been able to do that. Okay, so I knew I couldn't help those patients in the current physical therapy model.
Hmm.
So if you're in that, as a student, it's just like you suck it up and you get through it, and like, hey, this is what I don't want to do because there's a limited finite amount of time. If you have a
Hmm.
job doing and that's the position you're in, well, if you don't like it, it's up to you to change your situation. As a student, you don't really have that much control to change your situation in the middle of a clinical, but if you have a job, absolutely you do.
Yeah. Um, so then kind of moving into, you had this experience and you knew right after graduation that, you wanted to open your own practice. I feel like a lot of new grads think that, are at a point where they feel like they don't necessarily have enough experience. I know this is
Mm-hmm.
something you speak to a lot, but what's your typical advice for those students who feel like they might not be ready?
Yeah, I mean, if you feel ready to go to a hospital and work with patients who might fall without, when you blink, or who are on like supplemental oxygen, and you feel comfortable enough getting a job working in a skilled nursing facility or going to someone's home and at home health, you can, or even getting a job in outpatient physical therapy clinic, you can start a practice. If you don't
Okay.
feel ready because your clinical skills aren't ready, then you're not really ready to graduate. Owning your own business is no different. It's just a second set of skills you have to build. It's not treating patients, it's running your business. And you don't need 5 years
Hmm.
of experience working for someone else to learn how to run a business. Um, you need to go work with a coach and mentor to learn and read books and take courses to learn how to run business, just like you spent 3 years learning how to be a, in air quotes, competent physical therapist upon graduation.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know,
Yeah. And I mean, just kind of building off that, it was a situation I'd say I've felt similarly in the past. And just reading through your book and seeing that you do lay out a blueprint of exactly how you do it.
mhm.
There's so many resources out there, um, especially within business, just how to learn different aspects of it. And with all those resources available, it becomes systematic, and so many people have done it before. It's like it's not that great of a stretch to say that I can do this.
Right.
So, and I like that. I feel like that's a message you preach a lot, and a good one at that.
Yeah. Well, so many people told me like you can't do this, like you shouldn't open a business, like you have to have 5 years experience. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I've got 7 years of experience, like treating patients already. Like, you're telling me I can't open my own business? Like, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
And so not everyone graduating is going to have the same level of experience as me or someone who's already an athletic trainer or maybe done personal training for a while. But we've helped people who right out of PT school have never done anything else, and they start their own business and they're wildly successful. It's because they want to, not because, they have to. I think that's
Sure.
the big difference maker.
So with that being said, surely you faced a lot of challenges during the early years of opening up. What were some of the greatest challenges you faced, and maybe even your favorite failure?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, how do I find patients they're willing to pay
Hmm.
cash to come see me? Um, Originally for me, um, you know, no one. There are a few people, like my wife and my dad was still skeptical, and he was like, "Oh, you can do this, but you should probably go market
Yeah.
to physicians, because that's what we did." And he's basically like, "Go cash in a few of the favors that people owe me around town." And it was, how do you get patients? Pay cash. Well, I went to go cash in some of these chips, and they didn't send me patients. Like, I'm well connected in Greensboro in the medical world, and it didn't get patients. And physicians would say, "Well, only if you took their insurance." I'm like, "But
Hmm.
the results I get for people, and you're still gonna send them somewhere else just because that other place takes insurance, not because Dr. Lebauer is like the best option." Like,
Hmm.
I thought that was ridiculous, and that was after a few years of practice. So I guess the number one I would say mistake or thing that I did that I would change was, I went to go try and market to physicians. I'd spend 30 every eval. I'd spend 30 minutes writing up a treatment note and printing out
Hmm.
letters on stationery and sending it out to their primary care provider, specialists, and even the chiropractor that they listed. And I did that hundreds of times. I'd go personally drop them off. One chiropractor ended up, from that, was like, "Wow, you wrote me a note. Oh my gosh." He's like, "Let's meet for lunch." And he ended up sending me 12 patients in my first year. It was great. But the
Oh,
amount of
wow.
time I spent on that strategy, the ROI wasn't there.
Hmm.
And so there's a bigger ROI in getting out into the public and marketing directly to, like, our customers, our patients. And that's what we teach our clients these days.
Okay. And would you say it takes a certain type of, I want to say a certain type of intervention or strategy in terms of how you're applying each session? Like, do you think Cash PT can primarily only be successful for people who do a lot of manual therapy, or do you think people who rely more heavily on exercise prescription can be just as successful?
They can both be just as successful. I think there's a misconception that the amount of time I spend with you is what's valuable. It's not the amount of
Hmm.
time I spend with you; it's the result and that I can give you, and the transformation. But I'm only going to really truly know what it is you want if I spend time with you and ask you the right questions.
Hmm.
But it's not whether I touch you or whether we don't touch you or exercise you or needle you or not. And I would say that the pandemic taught us that, even with telehealth, like, we can get people amazing results, and they're still willing to pay the same prices that we've charged for in-person visits.
Okay. So with the Cash PT model, kind of how did that change or evolve throughout COVID? Did you feel like your business took a big hit, or were you able to, kind of adapt, like you said, with telehealth and find other ways to keep the strategy successful?
Yeah. How did it evolve? We're much better at sales. We had a lot more objections to people, and these are objections like, I don't want to come in, I'm not ready to take care of myself, etc. We did take a hit. I mean, we didn't have to close down, but people were really resistant
Yep.
to telehealth in the beginning. We converted right away to it, and all our current patients moved in, but we had 2 months where we had no new patients. They're like, "Well, I've been in pain for 6 months. I'm willing to wait another 2 weeks to 2 months to get started." And
Okay.
then once that came around and we could open in person, people had no tolerance for telehealth anymore, like, locally.
Hmm.
Um, but I think if there was anything it did, was it allowed me to create some systems that we had just put on the back burner because we didn't really need them. And I was
Hmm.
talking with my team today, and our lead therapist, Caitlin Herzog, and just talking about how our sales strategy is different now than it was almost 3 years ago when she started. And she's like, "It's a game. It's like, we used to have only like one script and one pathway, and it was fine because at that time it worked better than the one we had before. But now
Huh.
we have 3 or 4 pathways because we've spent a ton of time just really getting really good at sales. And we haven't done more marketing, we've done more sales, because sales is how we get people to understand that they need PT. Sales is how we get
Mm-hmm.
people to enroll in their plan of care and buy into their plan of care so they stick through it.
Okay. So what would you say your biggest advice is for a new grad who's maybe struggling to sell their treatments just to their patients, whether let's say not even within their own company, they don't
Mm-hmm.
open a cash PT practice, they're working in the outpatient setting, they're having trouble getting buy-in. What would you say your biggest advice in that situation would be?
Learn to ask the right questions, right?
Okay.
So there's two types of questions we want to ask. There's one that is just really getting into why they're there, because they're not there to gain more range of motion. They're not there to fix their knee or get rid of the knee pain. They're there to get back to the activity that the problem you're seeing is keeping them from doing. But in order to do that,
Mm-hmm.
we have to ask them why. So there's like it's like, you know, like, why is it important for you to fix your knee? Okay, because I can get back to CrossFit. So why is CrossFit important to you? Okay, because it makes me feel strong. Okay, why is feeling strong and healthy important to you? Because it allows me to be a good role model to my kids. Okay, why is being a good role model to your kids important to you? Because I didn't have a good role model growing up, and I want to do that for my kids. Okay, great. Now we're starting to get to the real reason that they're there. When
Okay.
we start to understand those things, now they're going to buy into the plan of care, and I can create a program that solves that problem for them, not just the problem that they can get fixed anywhere else.
Yeah, I've seen this circle of why before, and just the motivational interviewing. I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that I'm really grateful I've gotten a lot of opportunity to do so just within my education. And I think that the more we can get to the root of, kind of like you said,
Mm-hmm.
why patients are wanting to be seen, why they're wanting to return to health, the better
Yep.
outcomes could be.
Yep.
So that's awesome.
Can I drop one
um,
more nugget on that?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the next step is, now we know why. Now we have to position future. We have to future pace. Like an ounce of future pace is better than an ounce, like a gallon of I don't know, like regret later on, whatever the analogy is. But we have to future pace working together. We have to create future with them. So one of the top questions we ask is, John, if you could snap your fingers and produce one outcome working together in the next 90 days, what would it be and how would it change your life? Right? So now what I've said is, okay, over the next 12 weeks, you get, if there's one result that you want, it's just one result, not 20, just one result. What would be the most important one, and how would it change your life? So I position working together for 90 days. I position the fact that together we're going to get them the result, and it's a life-changing result. It might not be life-altering, but it's something that's meaningful to them, and they tell us, great, I can absolutely help you do that. Because pretty much, like, I can't fix your meniscus, but I can help you play tennis again without your shoulder being a problem.
Okay.
You know?
A lot of valuable nuggets right there. That's awesome. So then you get to a point where you're starting to see a little bit more success by yourself in this cash practice.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through the process of hiring on more therapists. I see that you now have a licensed massage therapist as well. What's that kind of working relationship been like, adding on those additional roles and expanding your cash PT practice?
Yeah, I think for so long, so many people told me it wasn't going to work, that I was just focused on, making sure that a cash practice worked, right? That I could do it. And I got to a point where I couldn't justify going to like CSM or PPS because it would take me out for 3 or 4 days of the week. I'd lose
Mm-hmm.
income. And what was I going to learn there? They weren't really teaching things about how to market directly to patients, or direct marketing, or copywriting, or anything like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to learn anything. I don't really care about the research on, uh, hallux valgus crepitus, like whatever. Like, I don't care about that stuff. It's not going to change my practice. Um, okay. And then I was like, well, I want to be able to go on vacation, but every time I go on vacation, I basically take a pay cut. I started hanging around people who had more successful businesses than me. And I realized the way that they were able to do that was to hire staff. I was like, okay, like, let me figure that part out. So I hired an administrative assistant, and who immediately, like, this was 5 years too late, who immediately saved me, I don't know, 6-7 hours a week, just by being the one to schedule people and answer the phones, like, and returning phone calls and rescheduling people,
Mm-hmm.
which paid for her job. It's like, okay, now I have 7 more hours a week to see patients that I don't have to, and that more than covers what the salary I was paying her. And I realized, this is how we do it. And so that was kind of the aha moment. And then looking back on it, I think if there's any big nuggets about hiring and building a team, it's number one is what jobs or roles are you doing in your daily activities or life that you can pay someone else to do, and you can pay them less than what it costs you. So it doesn't cost me any money to treat a patient, but I can generate $250 an hour treating a patient. So I'm not going to spend my time answering the phones when I should be treating patients because I can pay someone else less than $250 an hour to do that. I can pay another PT less than $250 an hour to treat our patients, so I can coach my clients so that 50 people at a time can learn how to get another dozen patients, in their business. And if we can kind of start looking at our business, that's when you start looking, when you move from owning a job to having a business, when you value your time over the you stop trading time for money. Your time becomes more important. So if I can hire someone to do this job for, so that I can go spend some time somewhere else making more money, then I need to hire out that role, unless it's something only Aaron can do. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That kind of piggybacks onto my next question too. And I was going to ask about some of the biggest challenges of CashPT in general. I know, because you kind of insert with your last question, but I was going to say, if you're the only person treating at a CashPT clinic, then you're in a situation in which you're taking time off, you're losing income, and things like that. But you pretty much just answered my question in terms of the solution being hire more staff for the jobs you can't do, and then also supplement with other therapists who can treat as well.
Yeah, you absolutely, you can own a job and it's great, but when you stop working or want to go on vacation, you don't have, you don't really have anything you can do, and you have to have a vision bigger than yourself. So a lot of people who own a job leave a shitty job and build one for themselves, and it's much better, but they're not really building a business that works for them. And it takes a little bit of faith, but you also have to be able to say, okay, if someone else can treat these patients, now I can spend more time on the business growth activities, the marketing, et cetera, and fill their schedule and keep seeing patients if I want to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then I'm going to ask you to put on a couple different hats throughout this interview. And the next one I'd like you to put on is your physical therapist, entrepreneur / consultant hat. So in the book, you talk a little bit about kind of the moment you realize that you're giving away all your services for free, essentially not getting a whole lot of a thank you back. So I guess I just want you to talk a little bit about how you knew when you wanted to step into your roles as a consultant, moving into writing the book, now doing the podcast, CashPT Lunch Hour, just kind of what that transition more the entrepreneurial side of things outside of just your CashPT practice.
Yeah, I think it was, I was trying to just help people do what I did, right? People are asking me, Aaron, how did you do this? And I got on the phone with a couple people and just for an hour, just told them everything. I was like, here's all you need to do. You just do these 20 things. Okay, great. And I think I said to my wife, I was like, they didn't even say thank you. I told them exactly how I did it. And then I had a woman ask me some questions. She said, hey, can we get on a call and ask you some questions? I said, sure. She said, how much do I owe you? I said, I don't know. And she said, well, how do I pay you what you charge your patients per hour? So I said, fair enough. And that's the day I realized that this was something that other people wanted, but was also something that was valuable to me, and that I could share and teach what I knew to other people and generate some income with it. And so prior to that, I was already writing a blog. I'd started, instead of a podcast or writing a book, I started doing webinars. I feel like I'm much better talking and speaking and sharing ideas in this medium. Yeah. And so I did that, and that's how the CashPT Lunch Hour started. It was a series of live webinars, about 40-something live webinars, some interviews and some trainings. And then, so along the way, let's see, I met another physical therapist who had already got out of practicing, and he was doing webinars himself, had some big YouTube videos. This guy, John Schumacher, no one in PT has probably heard of him, but John Schumacher is one of my early mentors. And he said, Aaron, you have a 6-figure business. And I said, no way. He said, yeah, you do. And I couldn't see it, but he could. And so I hired him to help me build out a sales page for my course, the CashPT Blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that. And he said, here, take these 5 emails and send them out to your list. And I adapted them to myself. And we enrolled 25 people in the course before I even built it. And that's when I realized, okay, like now I have some work to do. This is a thing. And then it was another year or two where I was still treating patients, but the whole time I'm treating patients, my thoughts were, I've got all these other things I need to do. I've got
Mm-hmm.
people that need help. I can help more people than just this one person sitting in front of me. And I'd already hired another PT at that time, but I realized I needed to stop treating to focus, 100% on the things that were driving like my interests, which is running
Mm-hmm.
our clinic and running the coaching and consulting business. And so then I kind of slowly, I kind of ripped off the Band-Aid a little bit. I went down from Monday, Wednesday, Friday to just Wednesdays, and all of a sudden no patients got on my schedule. Um, just that one change. And it's allowed me to help even more people and still grow our business and our clinic. And our clinic helps just as many people as we ever did, if not more now. So I think hopefully that encompasses your question. But if there's one thing that I want everyone to understand is that I've had people come to me and say, Aaron, I want to start an online business and I want to teach and make money online. Okay, great. You have to give first. You have to give a lot of yourself and your ideas and your
Mm-hmm.
content. So I had been writing a blog, doing a webinar series, I had created a group on Facebook before I ever sold anything. And then, and it took years of not only sharing my knowledge, but working on this before I had success in as a coach. And and so you have to build an audience. You have to have people around you that want something. And if you don't have that, it's gonna be really hard to build a course and then go try to sell it. You need to have an audience, and then you need to sell it first, and then you
Okay.
build it.
So would you say it was a situation where you're kind of dabbling in a bunch of different things, seeing if anything would stick, or was it always you had the singular idea of you want to spread knowledge in terms of how to open a successful cash PT practice and
Yeah,
everything kind of
it
surrounded
was
about
it
that?
was I wanted to start my clinic because I wanted to treat patients, and then everyone told me you couldn't do it, and I proved them wrong, and other people were finding success and wanting to do it, and I said, well, you know, let me help these other people do it, because it's as big as the biggest middle finger I can stick up is to help thousands of other people do what
Uh-huh.
everyone told me was impossible.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to maybe a PT who's been practicing for a while and they're interested in getting involved in doing some consulting, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's for other businesses, other physical therapists? How do you kind of get your foot in the door in terms of consulting jobs?
Mm. Share what you know. Just share what you know. Teach your best stuff. Teach it and do it for free. But you don't for free
Okay.
one. You don't do it for free one on one. You don't need to always teach how. You teach the what and the why. Like what the problem is. You bring attention and awareness to the problem. You share with people why they need to do something about it, and you can tell a story about how you learned how to do this thing. And then you can say, if I were you, this is what I would want to do next. I'd want to do A, B, and C. And C is find someone to help you through it. Just like I would if I'm promoting physical therapy. Like it's not go to my Instagram and fix your back pain. It's go to my Instagram and learn about, why you need to do something about your back pain. And then you come to me to fix it. So it's if there's anything you do, it's find one platform to share your information. The second thing would be find a platform that you can use to collect emails and a
Mhm.
lead magnet that converts. And we use the PT email engine, which is the software program that we created. I use it for my clinic and my coaching business. And what it does is allows me to send automated thank you message and automated follow up emails to people. And as soon as they come in, they get acknowledged and they get more information. And I give them more information, more ideas, more things to chew on until they're ready to work with us.
Okay. So then in terms of you said you don't necessarily need a lot of experience to jump into opening a cash PT
Mm-hmm.
practice. What would you say to a new grad who's interested in getting involved in consulting? Because I feel like that might be more of a situation where you really need to build up some sort of a skill. I mean, you could
Yeah.
consult within PT, but
Yeah.
um,
I think there's a couple things. Number one, remember the Leonardo DiCaprio movie Catch Me If You Can about Frank Abagnale? right? He taught
Mm-hmm.
a class at, I think it was at Harvard. And eventually they said, well, how'd you do that? He said, all I had to do was be one chapter ahead of the students, right?
Okay.
So you have to be one chapter ahead of the people you're teaching. And it's going to be really hard if you're trying to teach someone, if you're trying to teach someone to do something you haven't done. That's going to be really difficult. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can be a kind of like a health coach or, kind of like a mindset coach. And I haven't done X, but I haven't built a franchise, but I can kind of coach you through some of the steps you're going to need. But I can't coach
Mm-hmm.
you on like franchise like issues. So if you've created something and you've been successful at something, you can certainly teach people how to do it. You don't have to be the master or number one. You just have to start sharing what you know and help people along. But if you haven't created an online course, it's going to be really hard to teach people how to create an online course. Or you haven't created a cash practice, it's going to be really hard to teach people how to create one because they're going to have answers that you don't have. They're going to have questions you don't have answers to. And it's going to be,
Okay.
you have to have some kind of track record there. And you can
Yeah.
build it just by helping people. Hey, look, I've helped 5 people do this, and I can help you because I've done it
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I really like the idea of one chapter ahead. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, so obviously you mentored so many healthcare professionals at this point. You've spoken a little bit about some of the mentors you've had. Kind of take me through how you found your mentors, what they've meant to you,
Mm-hmm.
and what someone should look for in their mentor.
Yeah, that's great. I think one of my, let's see, I've had clinical mentors, but
Mm-hmm.
besides my clinical mentors, my business mentors, there was another guy, Scott Van Niekirk, I met through one of my clinical mentors, who had a cash-based physical therapy practice, and he shared with me some of the stuff that he knew, and we did like a 3-month kind of coaching program, and it was something that I did. I can't remember if it was I think it was before I had a PT practice, still when I had a massage therapy practice, but
Mm-hmm.
he was helping some PTs and massage therapists in this. I met him through John Barnes and my myofascial release training, and did that. And how did I find him? I just found him because he was in that community, and he had a very similar type of practice to the one I knew I was going to build. Then the next person, and then beyond that, like for my cash practice, like there wasn't really anyone else. Next things were, okay, PT doesn't have the information I need to market directly to patients. I need to go outside the industry. And I started reading blogs and books of, just general marketing and even personal trainers. I had another coach when I first really got into realized I needed a coach was when I wanted to start my coaching business. So that's when John helped me launch my
Mm-hmm.
course, the CashPT Blueprint. But then I was like, okay, this is good. I got this, right? And it was another 2 years before I realized I need something else. So I did a 2-week program with Lewis Howes, a course, and it was a $2,000 program. Most money I'd spent on coaching. Yeah, I think earlier on the first one was like $1,200, and then I think it was like another $1,200 or $1,500, and I think this one with Lewis was $2,000 or $2,500. I was like, all right, this is a lot, but I know I need this, and I bought it off a webinar, and immediately made $18,000 that first weekend. I was like, okay, like this starting to make sense. But he didn't have a long-term program, and then and that's when like I said, what happened? I knew I was like, I need to keep growing this. I'm started running into problems that were good problems, but I couldn't solve it on my own. I was spending too much time in them. And so now I have a business coach. His name is Bedros Keuilian. So here's what happened was one of his blog posts was how to get ranked on the top page of Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was something I had seen when I was building up my clinic. I went 4 or 5 years ago to show it to someone. I said, hey, check this out. This is that original blog post. Well, I went on that blog post, and Bedros had installed a Facebook ad pixel. So after I showed it to someone, I was like, I started seeing Bedros in my Facebook feed in his new podcast. Started listening to his podcast. And they had a live event. I went to his live event, and I was like, I need to work with Bedros. I'm not a personal trainer, and I don't have a gym. And that was his main offer, was a mastermind for gym owners. So I
Mm-hmm.
went and talked to the salesperson, said, hey, what do I do? And they said, well, Bedros has this private coaching program. And so I enrolled in that. And I've been working with him going on 4 years. And it's rapidly accelerated my business's growth because I don't have to sit and stew on decisions. I can, I have a coach and like a group of people that I'm now connected with who can help me wade through all these decisions so that I can focus on my top 5% of activities and not stuck in the weeds or sitting on a fence in the cornfield trying to figure out, do I, use Square or GoCard Connect, or do I do, JNAP or Intake Queue? Like they all do the same thing. And the amount of time people waste trying to make those decisions is crazy, but they don't realize it at the time. And that's what these, the business coaching does for me. And so how you find a good one was the other part of your answer, is find someone who's been where you want to be, or is where you want to, or is where you want to be in the future. And read their book, listen to their podcast, watch their courses, you resonate with them. Check out their programs, get on a call with them or their team and see if it's a good fit. And if they can help you, they'll tell you. And if it feels a little uncomfortable and scary, it's supposed to, it's not supposed to feel comfortable. They're supposed to push you out of your comfort zone. So
yeah, because I guess that was kind of going to be another one of my questions, is just if there's any red flags to look for in seeking out these coaches. But I mean, you kind of answered it with doing your own research, making sure that, you resonate with their books, with their products they're putting out, and that they have a proven track record. So that is all super helpful as well. The next thing I want to talk about, this tails off of consulting a little bit, but I noticed on your website that you offer corporate wellness. I haven't had any guests on who have really spoken to what that looks like. I'm curious, like, what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it can take many different shapes. So there's two main models. Is one, the one that we've done in the past, which we're not currently doing right now because of pandemic, but is we do a class at your office, or we'll do a class for your team on a one-off or on a regular basis, and which is a great way to get people familiar with us for when they need physical therapy. So we're doing more like yoga classes, meditation, mobility, fitness classes, those kinds of things. The other model, which we haven't done, but I've worked with people and coached people through this part, which is where they go to a business and they're on site for, let's say, 2 hours a week, or maybe twice a week. And they're there, and they're kind of like there for open office hours, or people can sign up and get a 10, 15-minute consultation, depending on your state and your practice and the relationship with this business. It can include some treatment or not. And then that's a great way to say, hey, I've treated you here, done this service here. We need to see you in the office, and now I can get people in the office. But if the big thing with corporate wellness is it takes a long time because there's a big corporation has really only one person that makes the decision, and you're never going to talk to them. They're generally the CEO. So you have to talk to like 5 or 6 different people who have really no decision-making power before you talk to someone who can make a decision. So it takes a long time. You have to be able to show them that really, like, you want a big contract, you have to be able to save them more money than they're already spending. So, hey, if you bring us in for, let's say, $100,000 a year, and we do this every week, based on the size of your company, you should be able to save $250,000 or $500,000 a year in healthcare costs. And if they look at that and they actually really believe you, which I'm pretty sure we have the research to show this happens, they'll be like, God, it's a no-brainer. Let's get you in here and do it. And then once they say yes, it could still take some time. But that's generally, those are kind of the two different models it looks like. I think it's, I think there's a lot of ways to skin that cat, but those are the basics of it.
Yeah, that answers my question. I guess I was just a little bit more curious in terms of what the contracts look like. I mean, you kind of mentioned it could last a year long, or it could be one day. So it really kind of depends on the situation.
It kind of depends. Like we've done it for, we had a team, we had a woman who has, I don't know what she does. She does like, sells some beauty products and has a team of like 25 people. And she bought a massage gift certificate and did a group yoga class for all of them. We got tons of clients from that. That's one level of corporate wellness. And the other is, doing, let's say, a regular yoga class down at the headquarters, once a week. Those are both pretty easy to kind of envision. And how do you write that up? It's like, you're going to pay us X per month and we're going to do this service. And if you're, contract wise, if you really need someone, you should use a local lawyer who knows contract law to look at it. But it's fairly simple. No more complicated than the contracts we have with our patients.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before we break into our last segment, which is kind of the 5 questions I ask all my guests,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you one more question. When did you when would you say you really cemented your path and knowing what you wanted to do? I know a lot of students struggle
Mm-hmm.
throughout their education, even after they graduate, really finding their purpose or path or what they want to do with their life. So I guess kind of at what point do you feel like you kind of found that, or do you feel like you're still searching?
No, I still don't know.
Okay.
When I was in college, I knew I wasn't going to do the same thing. At some point, I was like, if I'm going to do the same thing for more than 10 years, I'm going to be disappointed with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a bunch of friends in college who were like, well, you go to med school or you go to law school or you go work in management consulting and that's it. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. So, like I tell people all the time, like, you don't need to know right away. Go experience life, go do something. And look, if you go through PT school and after a year or two of practicing or 2 days, you're like, screw this, like, this isn't for me, go do something else. But you haven't wasted your time unless you let it be wasteful. All the learning and years that you've experienced in school or in a job that you don't like or in a job that you love are all knowledge and fuel for the next fire that you can build to help other people and help yourself.
Yeah, I like that a lot. One of my mentors is always preaching the idea of everything you do is just another rep that'll
Mm-hmm.
eventually accumulate into growth and something great.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, if you're up for it, I've got 5 questions to ask all my guests.
Absolutely.
The first being, what is your biggest key to a successful day?
My biggest key to a successful day, plan it the day before. Okay, so I know when I'm going to eat lunch, I know when I'm going to work out, and I know kind of what I need to do during the day. And then it's get something done. Once I get something done that I like, it's like I'll do like 10 things in a day. But if the one that would make my day, if all I had to do is that one action and one activity and that was it, then my day was successful. I do that one first.
Okay.
And then
So are you
everything
the
else
type
is
of
bonus.
Yeah. So are you the type of person who's like big into to-do lists, blocking hour by hour? Kind of what's your typical approach?
Yeah, I have to build a to-do list, and I have to block out my time, but I don't always keep the time blocks.
Okay.
I've got ADD enough that if I don't have it on my calendar, it doesn't exist, and if I don't have it on a list, it's gone. But I
Okay.
don't judge my success or day by my to-do list. I judge it by the done list.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good strategy. I think sometimes when I try and go with the blocking approach,
Mm-hmm.
if the day starts to fall apart a little bit, then I kind of start to view the
Yeah.
day as a failure. But I like
Right.
what you said about kind of look at what you got done
Yeah.
and judge from there.
Yeah. Well, right
Um,
before lunch, I went and moved some things that didn't get done today. I moved them to next week. So today's not a failure. They're not on today anymore.
okay. The next question I have for you is, what do you wish someone would have told you 5 years ago that would have kind of impacted where you're at right now or your approach to how you're doing things?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. 5 years ago, should someone have told me 5 years ago? Um, I think that, gosh, that's a really good one. I have that answer for like 10 years ago. I think 5 years ago, where was I? Was
You can go
that
back to 10
yeah,
too if you'd like.
yeah. I mean, I think the whole idea around how much my time is worth and how much money you can make in revenue, like money's not bad. Like I should be able to generate 3 to 5 million a year, no big deal. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't need that much. Like neither do I. But if I did have that much, what more good could I do with it? Right? How
Mm-hmm.
much more good could I do with my money? Money's not just for me and my family. If I am able to generate more money than someone else, like great, like that's capitalism, but it's what I do with my money that really makes a difference. I was able to last year give away more money than ever in 2020, give away more money than I ever had before. This year, I don't know how much money I've given away, but it's not enough. And I don't know, but I've given away plenty. And I want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get to a point where I can give away significant amounts of money. I want to be able to give away $100,000 without even thinking about it. Well, I think about it without even like it not hurting me and feeling the dent. Like I don't want to have to feel it, but that's a significant amount of money. Yes, $200 is significant to some people, but what would change an organization? What would change a small organization or small business's life or outcome I mean, we're talking not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands. And I need to think that big. I'm thinking that big now, but I wasn't thinking that big 5 years ago. And that's
Mhm.
something that my coach, helped me with. He's like, Aaron, I want you to be generating 3 to 5 million a year in the next 3 years. I said, that's great, but how am I going to do that? You have to show me. He said, you're thinking with the wrong currency. He said, you're thinking
Mhm.
in the currency that you're charging right now, not the products and programs and what you'll be charging, a few years from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. The next question I have for you is there any book or product that has significantly impacted your life over the last 3 months?
Oh, in the last 3 months, book or product? I got a new hat for Christmas.
Okay.
And it's
Nice.
really
Give
comfy.
him a shout out. What brand
Yeah.
is it, or what are you working with?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me plug my microphone back in. It is. It's a Everest Designs hat. It's wool with fleece
Ooh,
on the inside.
I
So I have
like
an
it.
old one, and it was like, well, Aaron, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I'll have a hat. Even though I didn't grow up celebrating Christmas, so Christmas is kind of new to me.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish, so I grew up and we didn't get Christmas presents. And my wife converted to Judaism a few years ago, but she's more Buddhist, Jew, but she celebrates
Uh,
Christmas growing up. And so it's always a fun thing. So how's that impacted my life in that it allows me to, connect with another side of, I don't know, myself and my kids in ways that I didn't have growing up. So if
yeah.
that's the lesson and story,
I saw you were doing a little bit of skiing too last
yeah.
week. Is that right?
Yeah, we
Nice.
went skiing with my kids. So I took them skiing the 3 days before Christmas, which allowed my wife time to wrap a ungodly amount of presents for everybody.
Nice.
So
So keep your ears warm too.
yeah,
The next question I have for you is there any quote or mantra that you try and live your life by?
yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Mhm.
It's Wayne Gretzky. And there's that one, and then there's the don't stop, never quit. Because you have a
Okay.
goal and you don't stop and you don't quit, you're not going to lose.
hmm So I guess what are some of the shots you feel like you've taken that initially you thought didn't have a chance of going in?
Starting my cash practice, and everyone told me it's not possible and it's unethical and no one pay more than I could pay for PT. Selling a course. I have a online course that's sold. I don't know. We've enrolled thousands of people in it. Like I didn't
Mhm.
think that was gonna go the first time, but I was like, screw it. I'm gonna build a sales page and I'm gonna send out some emails, see what happens. And we enrolled 25 people in the course. Let's see. Moving across country. Like I grew up here in North Carolina.
Mhm.
I took a shot to move to California. It was amazing. I did some amazing things out there. I became a massage therapist. I raced bikes at a top level of the sport. I met my wife, and then took another shot saying, let's move to San Luis Obispo, where her family is from.
Uh-huh.
She's from LA, but she had family in San Luis Obispo, which is the Central Coast, and it sucked there. And we said, okay, instead of doing what we've already done, moving back to San Francisco and throwing a dart at the map, let's go try North Carolina. We took a shot. We were both, by the time we moved here, we were engaged, bought a house, both re-enrolled in school, and we've been able to do so many more things being here, than we could have done if we had stayed where we were.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
All right. Last question, signature question of the podcast. Dr. Aaron Lebauer, what is your favorite snack?
Oh, my favorite snack is dried mango, the
Yeah, okay.
unsweetened dried mango from Trader Joe's.
Nice. How long has this been your go-to snack?
Probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you eat it by itself or is it paired nicely with anything?
By itself. Yeah.
By itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
if it's good. I mean, if it's dry and hard and you get a bad batch, sometimes you got to wash it down with some water. Sometimes you need some dental floss or toothpick afterwards to get it out of your teeth. But
my
it doesn't pair with any other food.
yeah, my little brother got an air fryer for Christmas, and this isn't just like a basket air fryer. This
Yeah.
thing's pretty elaborate. He was trying to do some dried bananas, and
Oh, wow.
they were good, but same thing, a little bit sticky in the teeth, and I don't know, needed some toothpick action after that. Aaron, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. Where can my audience find you?
The best place to find me is over on Instagram at Aaron Lebauer. It's AARONLEBAUER. or if you can't find me there, just go to Google and it'll point you in the right direction.
All right, awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure my viewers, along with myself, took a lot of value from this conversation. So again, really, really appreciate it.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on your show. And you asked some amazing questions that I haven't been asked before. So it's been fun.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so then let's see. Oh shoot. Okay, so I don't know. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the recording. I still see it on your end.
Yeah, you can. Once we close, it'll render everything on your end once we close this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
If it doesn't, I've got a recording, and just let me know, and I'll upload it so you can.
Okay. Thanks so much. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Absolutely. Let me know when the episode's out, and if you have any links or things you want us to share, just email them over, and we'll just send them out. All right.
Okay. I'm anticipating it dropping probably mid to end of January, so I'll let you know.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, John.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Yep. See you later. You too.
Bye.